How's it going, everyone?
Hey everyone,
I'm Jason.
I'm Jeff, and this is
J&J Guitar Show.
And what do we talk on J&J Guitar Shows?
Guitar stuff.
Guitar stuff, right? Nerd stuff.
Nerd stuff.
Maybe someday it won't be a guitar. Maybe we'll talk a car or something.
Well, yeah, it's guitar. Well, it's cars and guitars.
Cars and guitars.
I don't know enough about cars though, so.
I don't either, but I like them.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Especially when they get you from point A to point B.
Yes, that's usually what works best.
Today we're talking about one of our favorite subjects to talk about, whether we're, on the phone, talking shit, whatever, we always circle around the Les Paul.
The Les Paul.
Right?
The mighty Les Paul. Yes.
Mighty Paul.
The Mighty Paul.
Right. And so today we're going to kind of go through some things that we know about them and the things that make them kind of unique and just call out some differences and things like that. You're going to see that just here when we decided to do this conversation, Jason had his Les Paul. I've got these two back here. So we'll use those as our reference points, and we're going to kind of talk through basically three different things. One, let's talk about body materials and when those all came out. Two, let's talk a little bit about finishes,
sure,
like nitro and cracking your finishes and stuff, things like that. And then three, let's kind of like go from the back forward and talk about a little bit about the electronics. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that we always, as guitar players, everybody always talks Les Pauls, but they always talk about 1 year pretty much specifically.
Oh, the 59 burst.
The 59 burst, right?
Yes.
Now, what you have here is you have two people who aren't totally full of crap, who've actually spent some time with 59 Les Pauls.
We have, yes.
Right?
Don't own them.
Don't own them,
but
right?
Lucky to play them, a bunch of them.
One of my favorite things was that, Albert, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I had Albert's 59 for like a week or two at one point in time.
Must be fun.
Which is funny because it's his couch guitar. Right?
Yeah, I got a $300,000 guitar.
Right.
Couch guitar, Bonamassa is probably that way too.
Well, I've seen Albert buy three of them now.
Oh, Jesus.
Right?
Okay.
Like on the phone, but no whole
digress.
So, but one of the things that was funny as hell is I'm sitting here and I've got his Les Paul, and I'm like, I wonder, is this actually worth its weight in gold? So I looked up gold prices that day, and I weighed his guitar, and it was actually worth more at that time.
As a guitar?
Yeah, than if it were pure gold.
That's awesome.
Right?
All right, people, guitar's better investment than gold.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah. Right? Except for in a fire, guitar goes away, gold becomes a blob.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's still
consider
gold.
your situation. That's all I'm saying.
Still gold, yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
But so let's first off talk about what a Les Paul is, right? First off, it is, a bit thicker than most guitars. And why is that?
Well, it's because they use thicker wood. Well, I mean,
physics,
man. It's physics, yeah. They occupy the same 1 3/4 inch body slab part that most guitars do. They're usually about 1 3/4 inch, not 2, except the SG 1.5. But it gets thicker because they got a good half-inch piece of maple sitting on top,
right?
On them, so that with the carved top gives it a thicker center piece and a little bit thicker on the side. Reaches almost full 2 inches on the side, 2.1 or 2, I think, on the center.
Right.
I can't remember.
Now, traditionally, it is always a mahogany back.
Yeah, mahogany back, maple top. Yeah, traditionally. Except in the 50s, customs were all mahogany top and mahogany backs and neck and everything.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, they were actually, it was a normal mahogany back, and then instead of using maple for the top, they just used mahogany top.
Yeah, it was mahogany top. Because I think the production was always just the way they did everything. The routes were all the same, so they still used a piece of
Yeah, they just changed the wood material. Yeah. Right? Now, the fun things about this is the back isn't always mahogany.
What do you mean?
Well, the 70s.
Oh, the neck. You mean the wood? Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, the neck. Yeah, in 74, 77.
Right. See, if he looks up 74, in the air,
I'm thinking.
Right, it's 74-ish.
Now, hold on. No, I think it's 77 or 74. What was Rainier Roads?
77, 78, I thought.
Yeah, I think that's maple.
Yeah, that's 3-piece maple, right?
Or 74 might have been starting. Oh,
yeah, but there's a period of time in there. There's two things that change throughout the 70s when it comes to the wood of the neck.
Well, it's 3-piece maple.
Right,
yeah.
3-piece maple for a period of time. And then the second thing is the tenon.
Yes, a tenon, in the 50 style goes completely through to in the humbucker cavity.
Can you describe that a little bit to anybody so they understand it?
On Les Pauls, they do a tongue and groove joint. So basically, it's like a little the bottom of the neck will be a little tongue part, and then on here's a keyhole. So almost like a key effect. So, but part of that was a tenon that came out the bottom of the neck. Underneath, I would shoot into the neck pickup, and it went pretty much all the way to the back of the route. Later period, 70s and stuff, you start seeing it a lot shorter. I mean, it's like a little bit less than half, pretty much where the screws are at. If you pop off the pickup, there'll be a gap right there.
Yes, and I've heard some people online reference the fact that, the shorter tenon, maybe it's got more or less stable neck.
Yeah.
I don't know that it does.
Not on a Les Paul. I mean, some people would be convinced that it may give you a bit more sustain because you got more mass here, but you're talking about maybe an inch thick and an inch longer at the most. You have this wall right here.
Right.
This is your stability in here. That piece there isn't doing anything for stability.
It's there and you cut through it because
that's the
route it to
thing.
get
They
to the
route
pickup.
down, so it's really thin underneath.
It starts out looking like a good idea, and then they kind of...
Yeah, so it's
But if we're talking 59, traditionally it
long
would be
10.
long 10.
Long 10. Yeah, and that's a good year thing too. The main where you really notice the effects on long 10 and short 10 and stuff is the SG cuts or anything like a fiber, anything where non-reverse fired reverser through, but anything where there's not a lot support in here. Right. That's where you want a long tenon. Double cut juniors, for instance. SGs.
Like a DC.
Yeah, because those things are going to be. That's where you'll get flex.
Right, but you've got this full wall.
But all this mass up here, no. That's why when you bend a Les Paul, you do have to actually push on if you're going to do Randy Rhoads style.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not.
We do not suggest this.
No.
But no, right. As a man who's fixed many of my headstocks, will tell you, please don't break your Les Paul headstock, which does come to the next conversation.
Yes.
Right? Let's talk about two things. One, the tilt back of the neck, and two, the tilt back of the headstock versus this Epi 59 reissue that I have. Its neck is on there in a different way. So let's first talk about the tilt back.
Yeah, the degree pitch on here was pretty standard, around 2.5 to 3 degrees, I do believe.
Okay.
It always floated because you'll see, it's always, I know when they do these things, they go by a measurement, but it's going to shift because mine's a little less. I've seen some that have a little bit more, to maybe 3.5 or 3.25, because it's my bridge is sitting kind of low to the body.
Right.
But I've seen some sit a lot higher up.
Right, and it was 52 when they were straight.
Oh, 52, they had the wrong neck angle. That's why you get the trapeze tailpiece where the strings go underneath the wrap, which is weird because they had all the jazz boxes at that time that had a 295, I think it was, that had it wrap over the top.
Right, but they knew what they were using the parts.
Right, but they just because come halfway through 53, they correct that.
Right.
So you get and in 54 you get the custom and all that stuff, and it's fixed by that.
Right.
So.
Okay, so now when you start building guitar, you do your most recent one that you built, you did sort of like this one.
Yeah, I follow essentially this sort of drivetrain in here in the sense of the scale length and the tilt. I actually did a little less because I don't have a carved top on mine, so mine came in to just about 2 degrees.
Okay.
Kind of thing, so a little bit less, but still went with the 17-inch kickback headstock.
Right, so you start with a long piece of wood.
17 degree. Yeah.
So a long piece of wood that's for the length of the neck.
Yeah, a long piece
right?
of wood. Yeah.
But to get the tilt back, you actually cut that out. So you start with a piece of wood that's this thick, and then you cut the neck out.
Yeah, 4 inches thin, 3 inches out.
Whereas if we look at this Epi, which we should talk about some of the things that are
definitely.
really, truly 59-ish.
Yeah, they do a good job on
this thing. But one of the things you will see that is probably a cost savings method so that they can do these things for $900.
Scarf joint,
is a scarf joint, which is that they
actually, this is almost like a butt joint. It's a little bit different, but it's still the same principle. It's still a 2-piece, so you flip it around. Some principle,
right. So it's sort of like I see another piece up there.
Yeah.
Right. So, but instead of starting with a big 4-inch piece of wood,
they start with a 1 inch
headstock out.
Is this jointed here?
Yes.
Yeah. So they start with the standard 1-inch piece.
So there's a joint here, glued on,
and
then they cut it straight at the angle, flip it over so that it now locks backwards.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So you get two 45-degree angles to create. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Scarf joint. Which is great. I mean, you get the proper angle and everything. It's a good way to save wood too. It's pretty strong. You don't see them break on the scarf joint really. So
no, usually the glue is stronger.
Usually break around it. Yeah.
Right. So now. So when we're talking Les Pauls, traditionally what we're talking about is, of course, mahogany.
Mahogany body, maple top, classic things, yes.
Now, one of the things that you will see that is interesting is, depending on the year, is the binding. Right, as it goes around.
Yeah, I wish we had a 70s one.
yeah, it'd be great. But the thickness of the guitar, right, when you come around and you get around to this spot, you will always see this weird thing in some guitars, right, which is that if you look closely, you'll see the maple top.
Right, you'll see it bleeding through underneath the binding.
Right, because the binding is, eighth inch or whatever it is.
Yeah, it usually starts out a quarter inch usually when they put it on and it trims down. But yeah, exactly. Whereas that's a half inch or whatever.
Right. So a 59 will have a quarter inch and will stay consistent with a quarter inch, and then you'll see right there the maple top kind of poking out underneath, right? So you'll see the color discoloration.
Exactly, yeah.
And then
especially if it's a really cherry back or light red back, you'll really see that stand out. Yeah. Because the cherry hits the maple and really kind of gets bright too. So sometimes it'll stand out hard.
And that is, and like in those guitars, what was it, 70s, right? You'll actually see them. They made the binding.
They extended the binding, came around and just got really thick right in that area.
Yeah, it's almost like they started with the full thickness of the top.
They did,
bound it all the way around and then cut it down.
Exactly.
Or I don't know how they did.
They just put a thick binding and trimmed all the binding off.
Yeah.
They just wasted it, or cut it off and used it for scrap or for other parts or whatever. I'm assuming something to that effect.
Okay. So now, so body-wise, the things
and this one's got the 14-degree tilt. This is a 17-degree.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of a trip.
Well, I wonder if because it's an epi, their headstocks are just a hair longer.
Maybe, I don't know.
Or maybe it gets a little weird if you did the full 17. Maybe it's.
I don't know. I don't know why their purpose of changing that. Maybe it's tuning issues or stability. I don't know. But they did change it.
Okay, well, that's something we don't know, right? If you know
why they did it,
what do you do?
Yeah.
You comment at the bottom.
Yeah. If you guys know actually why they did that, that would be relevant, because I actually don't know, and I haven't read in literature why they done it. I don't know a lot of whys on some of this stuff.
So now let's talk finish. So traditionally a sunburst guitar, right? Typically Les Pauls have a red back.
Yeah, it's usually,
what is that?
That's the grain filler generally.
Yeah. When I did a tour of the Gibson factory 2 years ago, right? It's amazing that grain filler, that red brownish color, it's everywhere around.
Oh God,
right? It's like
it dries brownish too.
It's really interesting looking, right?
Yeah.
But that's a big part of the color of that reddish.
Yeah, this one
brown.
dark back. Obviously, this one's actually colored. They just the way they did it's called the dark back.
Right. But traditionally, a Les Paul is, in a 59, it would be a lacquer.
Yes. Oh yeah, lacquer.
Right. In the 70s, they got some polymers in there.
Yeah, it's still always lacquer. They still start with base lacquer, but they start adding plasticizers heavily in the 70s.
Right, which is why they can sometimes be a little bit sticky feeling, gummy feeling, or whatever else.
And anybody who owns a 70s Les Paul has maybe experienced this. If you've ever tried to clean it, you put a guitar polish on there, and you start rubbing it, it just smears and gets worse. Yeah. Right. That's the plasticizer. They never seem to really get hard and adhere like 50s or more current finishes do.
Right, and now they use a nitrocellulose.
Yeah, it's still cellular. They still use lacquer. They're still using that, but less plasticizers. And I think they're probably nowadays new chemicals. There's probably new ways of adding it. I have no idea how they do it.
Yes,
I don't paint.
Well, and one of the things is that when you look at a 59 Les Paul, you will see your Honeyburst and all these different colors that, right? And we've got all these names for them. They're all gorgeous and stuff like that. But there was really only one color.
Essentially, well, yeah, there was yes and no. I mean, there was a sunburst, but you would get different tints of sunburst. They did do dark bursts, where this was literally a blood red that looked black on the outside when stacked with the other colors. So you'll see those fade, and those are the ones that fade to a kind of tobacco-y burst sometimes. Right. Or some of that darker edge on that. But then you get the cherry ones that are really bright, and those will fade to like a real lemony one too. Yes. So it just depends on the how much what they favored in their color when they did it. Yeah.
And a traditional guitar today, like your guitar, well, like take mine.
Yeah, that's a standard. That's a standard.
That's 2-3 years old, right? That will never fade into a Honeyburst.
Well, it'll fade.
It'll fade. It's just not the same.
No, it probably won't fade the same way. That's a good. I don't know. Yeah, I'd be curious to know. It's time. We won't know.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could speed it up, but I don't know how exacting the speed up is.
So check back with us in 20 years.
Yeah, check back in 20 years. So, but by this color though, how this is really orange, this will actually end up being like maybe more of a tea burst only, because this might brown out a bit. And get darker, so it'll be like a tea almost kind of thing.
So since they are lacquer, here's a topic of discussion, which is something that we like to do. Both Jason's guitar, if you see all the cracking and checking in it, older guitars will crack and check.
Yes.
Jason,
I forced the hand of time. That's what I did.
He will take an air compressor, just like can that you get for like spraying your keyboard or whatever else.
Exactly.
If you hold it upside down and spray the guitar, you'll start to hear it just crack. Yeah,
right. Because you get all the freon, everything comes out, and it's almost liquidy gas. It's really cold. Do it a couple times, and it'll just check. And then the funny thing is, you won't see it right off the bat,
No.
But as time goes and you start sweating in it, you play
you
it.
can start getting some dirt.
And, yeah, and it starts separating
like,
a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kinda,
right. And we did it
fun.
to this guitar, which you can start to see. Like,
yeah, you can see the lines, but it hasn't puckered yet.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a while.
Now, this is one of the things that when you travel with your guitar, when you ship it through the air,
yes, it can happen. Yeah.
It can crack. This is one of the biggest issues. So when you have guitars that are polyurethane based, right? Like that. Schecter,
right? Schecter's gonna be all poly. So.
That thing I could probably stick in the freezer and pull it out and be fine.
Right? I mean the finish is not gonna. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe the worst could happen. I think they can make cloud if they get moisture in them. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I've done it intentionally to one poly body, and you could start to see the wood start to get these black lines in it because it was starting to heat and cool. Right. Okay. But I literally would stick it in the oven till it was for a little bit.
But it didn't check.
And then but it wouldn't check on the outside. Right. I went back and forth between the oven and the freezer. It didn't do anything.
You blow up as a skid.
Well, I'm glad I might have chemical issues now going on, right? But these things are one of the biggest fears when you do travel and you go on an airplane, right? And we did mention on a previous episode, when you go to fly on a plane, if you have your guitar in a gig bag, you can take it onto the plane.
Right. Yes. Exactly. Right. And if you do that, if you can, because you don't want to. Well, you never want to check a gig bag really at all, ever.
No. Well, especially with a Les Paul, right? My first headstock break was a gig bag with a Les Paul.
Of course it was. It had to be.
Right. The next 3 times we're falling off a stand.
Right. Yeah. Face off on a stand will do it every time.
Which is not what you think. You think it would need to hit the headstock, but they're actually stronger when they hit the pointy part of the headstock.
Yeah. No.
It's the string pooling on it that when it hits.
It's the momentum. The headstock keeps going.
Yeah. It just keeps moving on. So, lesson at home: don't drop your Les Pauls. Right. So finishes are kind of cool because they can have that nitrocellulose thing.
Yeah, and how they react to time and wear and stuff. It's really cool.
So they can color over time, and that's a big part of the coloring difference of all the years.
Yellowing, especially when you see Strats, like a white Strat's all nice and yellow and creamy colors like that.
Yes,
just because it fades and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, right. Wait, so and we totally dig that. Yeah. So now, while we're still on the physical guitar, traditionally you will see on a Les Paul that the binding comes up over the fret a little bit.
Little nubs, people will call them. They the way they do it is they will literally fret the fingerboard, install the binding, and then with the binding up over the frets, and then shape the binding down to meet the ends of the frets.
How do they do that? Do they cut the fret?
Yeah, they
stick the fret in between.
No. They put the fingerboard. They cut the fret to fit on the fingerboard, then add the binding.
Oh, I see. So
the frets flush with the edge of the fingerboard.
So if you pulled the binding off, right? So it's the fretboard,
right?
And then you got like a little down cut, then little lip, and then the wood from the back.
Yeah, exactly. They put the binding in there, and then they'll shape the binding.
Right. So then they put the frets on, and then clean up in there, and then add the binding afterwards.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I assume that's the way they do it because it's a lot more. Oh God, that'd be so much more work to do it the other way. Well, unless they had them all pre-cut, machine cut. Now I don't know, but that's the way you would do it in traditional building.
Right.
Yes.
And if someone brings in a guitar for you to refret, right? I know this is a big topic of discussion. Is that some people will always want that nub,
sure,
right? Because it does feel nice, right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
If you haven't cleaned up your fretwork really well, it does make it feel nice. It kind of cleans up, so it does some airs.
Feels different than the metal, so you don't feel,
But it doesn't have any sonic benefit.
No,
it doesn't have any playing benefit.
No, I mean actually not benefit. If anything, some people almost prefer it, like when a refret, to have the frets go back over the binding, so you get less of the roll off.
Yeah, so you can
sometimes because now you're rolling onto plastic, and if you have the fret going all the way out, you can get a little bit more, feel a little more vibrato on your high string.
Yeah, and we've all seen that guitar where you actually catch.
Yeah, or catching the binding if the binding starts to separate. So yeah, I mean, but as it traditionally goes, yes, nubs are the thing, are what people want, but newer guitars probably from the 90s, the nubs are still there, but you start getting into the 70s, especially 50s or 60s, even late 60s reissues or 50s stuff, or SGs or juniors, a lot of that wears off. Like you won't playing, you won't even see the nubs. You'll see the nubs up here.
Yes.
But you won't see them here anymore.
Yeah,
they're usually all gone and rounded over and stuff. So
it's a really sexy cosmetic thing. It's a high-endy, takes extra effort to do.
Yeah, if you want to refret, if somebody had something like one that still had nubs on it, refretting, it's definitely a cost up and a lot more work because you're now cutting the frets to drop them down in there.
Right, because the other technique is to...
Yeah. You could pull the bind out. There's people that do that.
Yeah. Depending on the year, I wouldn't want to touch that.
Yeah, and I don't do spray refinish. I don't refinish. If I did refinishing, it wouldn't be that big of a deal because then I can pull out and refinish the work and make it look fine, but I don't. I'm just not a good sprayer.
Well,
I know my weaknesses.
I'm not a good sprayer. Are you a cat? Jesus. Right? Okay, so now let's go. So we've talked about some of the core things of a 59
Sure.
Les Paul, right?
Any Les Paul, really.
Weight-wise, this is an interesting topic. I personally tend to like guitars that are lighter.
Sure.
Right?
Most,
because I feel like they're acoustically more
Sure, yeah, resident.
Resident.
Loud, yeah, I gotcha.
From my experience modeling guitars, I know what is going on with the physics of that.
Sure.
And it's not necessarily a right or wrong thing.
No, just
I know,
different.
right?
It's totally different.
So I will meet some people that love those like 10.5-pound Les Pauls.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh God, right?
It's not bad. This is.
Yours isn't that heavy. Yours is a 9.
Nah, that's like 10.
Oh, dude, right?
Pretty sure.
I've met people who like 12.
I thought it was like 10. Well, yeah, that's
Right,
now
right,
you're getting
right.
that 70s
I mean,
world.
if we're talking it in gold, right? We want yours to be
Well,
the
there's
10.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So just a quick note about physics in guitars, which is interesting because when we talk about the bridge here in a second, this will play into it. And that is that the way a guitar physically wants to work is that this string ringing, in a perfect vacuum with a infinitely rigid point at either end.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Right. That string should, in theory, ring indefinitely. Right.
Okay. Yeah, barring gravity.
Yeah. Right. So now it doesn't on a guitar, and there are several factors that are playing into that. One is the magnetics of the pickup. Right. If you have too hot of a pickup, it can cut down your sustain.
Pulls on it. Yeah,
right,
stops the.
But
cycling.
What's actually happening for an acoustic, electric, or anything is that the energy is being absorbed.
Yes.
The energy is being soaked out. When you hear a guitar play loud, and you can hear a lot of wood from it, right? That's a lot of energy from the string that didn't stay on the string.
Right.
It had somewhere to go.
Right. Yeah. Got absorbed into the body.
Right. And you'll hear this. Some guitars are really great, like that Songbird that I have. Like if you hit an E note on it, it almost sounds like a chorus as it picks out harmonics. Right.
Right. Yeah. You start. Yeah.
Right. And if you listen to most guitars, like I don't know if we'll be able to hear it, but. Yeah, you can hear that harmonic coming out. Right.
I see what you're saying. What's reactive instead of quicker reaction harmonic-wise mean that it pops out easily?
Yes. So the reason you're hearing that is because that note is staying on the energy of the string longer than the one next to it.
Versus like that harmonic, which just dies out, right?
Exactly. So what is happening? Because in a perfect world, if it was infinite, you would have no harmonics. If we were in that gravity spot, it would be just to test them.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. Yeah, you wouldn't have all the variance in the things happening.
Harmonics come from
interference.
Yeah. So what's happening if the string is ringing? So an A string on a guitar is not 440.
That's averaged.
No.
What is it?
That's 110. A 440 is this note.
Oh! I see what you're saying on the keyboard. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So 440 hertz is this note.
It's a high.
Right. Yeah. And if you're trying to tune your guitar, like this one. That's 880.
Yeah.
This one is 220, and this one is 440. So if the guitar body...
110. This one's 110 or 440?
Yeah, sorry.
110.
110,
yeah,
220,
the high one's 440.
Yeah,
and then 480. Okay.
I don't know where my math just went there, just for a second. Right?
It's math, dude. Come on.
Right.
It sucks. But I love it.
If, for example, we play that 110, if 110 is really... The body does not want to... absorb it. The body is rigid and it reflects it. Then 110 stays strong.
Okay.
But let's say 220, the body does want to absorb it, that second harmonic.
Okay.
So that one will start to fall away.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
At a faster rate. And if you look at it, there's this whole string of harmonics going up,
So what's pulling waves being absorbed, what's not is hanging out.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Right. And
that's cool.
And some guitars charge you less. Right. So now let's talk bridges because this is a big factor of the conversation for a bridge because there's different years that use different bridges and different styles. Like if you're an aluminum bridge versus a brass or whatever,
steel or whatever, pot metal, cast metal, whatever.
That will interrupt that good flow,
right. Yeah.
And can maybe make one frequency live on the string longer or on the body.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And there's some differing thoughts on that, but generally what I find is that a harder body keeps more of the harmonics.
Okay.
So to me, they sound a little more testony.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because custom sometimes, because you get a little more density from the ebony fingerboard on there too.
Because all the harmonics, when you hit the note, they go bling, and because the body's too rigid, they kind of stay there. So you might go, oh, well, that lives another second longer. It's got sustain, but it sounds to me more interesting if I can hear them start to suck away and one live and one die, and it's like it's more organic and more interesting.
Sure,
to
I got
me,
you.
right? So one is not right, one is not wrong. It's just that's a little bit of what's going on there.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And essentially that's what's happening. Like if you ever have a dead string and you're going, it's like, so when I play this note, I've got nothing.
Right.
Well, it's because the body's ringing so well at that frequency,
so absorbing all the tone
that it gets sucked out before it goes anywhere.
Interesting.
Right.
And that, of course, will change too, depending on the solidity of the body. If it's chambered, light relief, all those kind of things, hollow.
Yes, which we didn't really talk about when we were talking about woods, but like yours is solid.
Yep.
This standard, I think, because of its weight,
it's chambered. Not chambered. Weight relief.
Weight relief.
Right. Yeah.
I think. I do not know.
Well, really quick, weight relief versus chambered. Weight relief to take weight out of the guitars. There's holes drilled underneath the top. Some different size ones. Nothing very large because it's smaller than I guess would absorb too much frequency to stay to hang out. Versus chambered, which is large pockets, not completely hollow. Just pockets of large, like I think there's one that goes like this here. I think there's one under here, and I think there's one here. I think is how they do it.
Which is a whole other physics thing, which you can get into. Is that like if you do a triangle shape?
Oh yeah, right? Shaping the
it's like you get this frequency and this frequency and this frequency.
It gets wider, but
and it's absorbing all frequencies out to that kind of equally is kind of the theory.
But also
that works better acoustically in a room than it does in a car. But
because you'll hear the chamber. You'll notice a tonal shift in the chamber. You'll get a little bit of boxy acousticness, a little bit. The weight relief, I never noticed it. I don't notice the tonal difference in the weight relief. I haven't sat there and A/B'd a lot of them, but I've never plugged in one and went like, oh, this is weight relief. You know what I mean? Like unlike where like, oh, this is chambered, because you can hear it kind of thing. So and then of course there's the F hole. They make an archtop Les Paul. It's pretty cool.
Well,
it's pretty
cool. So let's go back to that physics thing. Like you look at like an electric hollow body. The reason it goes, it's got that really boom, that darkening thing that happens and they get that warm wood sound.
Oh, sure. Okay.
It's not because you can hear the wood.
Right.
You can only hear what is on the string.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
What you're hearing is the wood absorbing a lot more frequencies than they would on a solid.
Gotcha, sure.
Right, and that's why they kind of go and they suck down really fast. Like all the frequencies kind of jump up and roll off real fast, which gives them that little jazzy wood sound. Right.
Well, that makes sense.
Harmonics, right? They're fun.
Yeah.
Right. So now, even though we've gone already like 30 minutes into our conversation with Les Pauls, the truth is we could go 30 days, right? That should be a challenge, right? Like how many days can we talk straight, right? With no sleep, right? just drinking beers and it's like 18 hours in.
Going for that Guinness record.
Right. So bridge wise, one of the first things you'll see, like if we look at this guy, is the bridge on this is different than this guy.
Yeah.
Right. What is the bridge differences?
Well, from late 53, 54 till 71, they did ABR1, which is what this bridge and this bridge is called. Okay, it's the type of bridge. Tunematic is kind of their overall name for the bridges they made.
Right.
But this one's called ABR1, and then in 77 they came out with this version of a Nashville bridge, and then prior to that, from 71 to 76, they had a large square one. Though you didn't see it that much on Les Pauls, you saw it on SGs a lot. It was a large square. They still called it. They still call it Tunematic. So I think in that time you could get this one. You can get a little bit of both, because when you look at the numbers of the history, it's a little chaotic. They're not really precise by the 70s. Once Norland took over, things weren't as kind of set in stone.
New Orleans.
But Norland, the company that bought them. Norland, it's supposed to be like a New Orleans.
Wow.
Since Norland bought them, their systems and things were different, it seemed like. So the bridge consistencies were a little off, because you also get from 69, from 61 through 71, you also get at some point they go and add nylon saddles. Too. Right. So you get that, which is going to change your physics things big time.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, a lot of change stuff going on there. But some of the main reasons for this was you get a longer throw. Your intonation point. They even quote that as like a what's they call it? A longer travel longer intonation point travel
Right.
on it. It's a little wider. There's a little bit more mass in here. You also have the luxury, unlike this one or that one, of having either a wire or no wire holding the saddles in, because the saddles are just set into the bridge. This is fixed in, the saddles are fixed in there. So one of the main things with that is, especially in the 50s, when there was no wire on the bridge, you break a string, that saddle would pop out.
Yes, you could be on stage and it just goes.
Yeah. So in 61 or late 60, they added the wire that goes over top of those saddles, so you break a string, it still stays in there.
Right.
But
Which then became another problem.
That came out because they bend over time, they start rattling, but people got edgy about that.
Yes, I hear this rattle, I hear this buzz.
Yeah,
what is it? It's like,
man.
it's right. Remember taking like a straight head screwdriver and
just like bending it down in between
it.
the things. Yeah, you'll see a lot of guitars with that. It just goes like that in between.
Right, because it's stretched too much, and now somebody's trying to make it not rattle.
So this was their purpose to deal with that, which is a great system. It's a good bridge. It's a good bridge.
So since we're talking about how most people want to try and get to a traditional 59, that's like the holy grail of guitars, right? Some just by myth and legend, some by reality that they're great guitars, right? Which is how they got the myth and legend, right? But it's not that the guitar they make today isn't also awesome.
Oh yeah, no, it has nothing to do with that. I mean, this is a 50. I mean, I love this thing. I mean, I've played 50s gold tops, and I'd put this right up there with them. This thing's great.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the wood isn't old and dry as that one those were. Maybe lighter. I'm real PAF, antiquity.
Okay.
Sound really good.
So first off, real PAF.
Oh, well.
He actually has a real PAF from the
like 60. I think it's a 60.
Yeah.
335 it came out of.
Sure, I just happen to have a real PAF.
Well, point being is though, there's a lot of amazing pickups out there. So this is an antiquity. Antiquities are great.
Yes.
I mean, even the bridge pickup of the set is really good. I just happen to like this one a little bit better.
Right. And in mine, you replace those with a Japanese manufacturer, Snarling Dog.
It's custom builder. They're great pickups, and they sound like they're PAF styles.
So
it's, and that just means like if you're what is it the resistance output's about 7.5 average.
Yeah.
And it's like you get into the whole enamel coated wire, butytate bobbins, Alnico magnet. You get
wood in the
wood spacer, maple wood spacer versus the plastic rubbery one they did later. So
yes. And there's lots of finesse to that, which is
zinc cover versus
which
steel,
or no cover.
Yeah, or no cover.
Right. Yeah. So there are all a million little tiny slight variations that you can get into. But ultimately, there are today a lot of great aftermarket pickup choices.
Oh, it's amazing
Which
stuff,
for me, what's interesting is the 59 Epiphone reissue that they came out with last year, which I got.
Right.
One, it's affordable, so consider that. Plays great, and from both of us, there's some things that are really authentic for.
Yeah, they got a lot of stuff.
They got a lot of stuff right.
Yeah.
Their checklist was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
The standard, which is like 2-3 years old, right, did not sound good electrically to me.
Right, it's a good acoustic sound, but
it was like acoustically, the body was right, the neck was right. It's like, we're Bonnie, we're friends, right? Right? And I plug in and it's like, unless I'm playing Sweet Child O' Mine, this thing does not sound right.
Gotcha.
Right? It had that fluty,
Too much roundness.
Yeah, so Jason gutted it, and there's a traditional 50 style wiring with the large caps and stuff like that, right?
And the way you wire it for them to get the proper roll off and all that stuff.
Yeah, so you get the proper taper and stuff like that, where it gets a little bit brighter as you roll it off and so which this one stock out of the box came with burst buckers.
Right, exactly.
So it's funny that this reissue
they did a good job
sounded significantly better than that guitar electrically.
Yeah.
Right. Until we change the electronics in that. Yeah. Right. It's like so it's not even a question. So when you're out there, folks, go ahead and look into some name some other who's Nolly using now?
There's pickups. Ron Ellis pickups.
And what was he using before?
He uses Monty pickups. He has Monty's in a couple of them. He's from the UK. I love his pickups. They're great.
And
I got a set of those.
Who's the Japanese lady that you could pick up?
Sayoko Kuwabara. She's amazing pickups too. She does some great custom winding, and she has her own line of pickups. And there's and then Lindy Fralin has some nice ones.
Right, and you mentioned the Antiquity, which is also a great
Antiquity. Seymour Duffy Antiquities custom
I
shop
mentioned
stuff.
the burst buckers that come stock in this thing.
Yeah, they're good. Burst buckers are some of the best production pickups into going for the PAF, pseudo PAF type tone, like that down that track of production of that. You know what I mean? Like pumping out a lot versus somebody winding them and doing it in the shop.
Pickups, what I will mention is that we always hear Alnico, Alnico.
That's a key thing of the 50s pickups.
Right.
They didn't do ceramic yet. So.
Yeah, ceramic wasn't being done yet, and Alnico is different. Now, Alnico is notorious for compressing slightly differently, right? And why we mentioned that we kind of want lower impedance pickups. We don't want these 10K pickups. We want like 7.5-ish down here, right? We don't. They're not necessarily that hot, right? But one of the things that is that when you look at pickups, you'll see an Alnico 5. Alnico 5s can tend to sound very scoopy. You have a lot of high-end chime and a lot of,
Recommended always for the neck pickup.
Yes.
Yeah, so you get less flutiness.
Yes.
It's less of the child of mine tone, and you get a lot more definition in the low end. Because, neck pickups in any guitar can get, closer you get here, the more volume, but the more bass you get.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitive. So the closer you go to the middle, so this is always can be a little muddy. People refer to it as muddy. So Alnico 5s, like you said, scoop that out a bit, get it more definition, a little brighter, clarity.
Right.
Yeah.
And
2s back
59,
here.
It was like a 2 or a 3 back there traditionally. Right?
Which will soften on the lows, but that's okay because you got the attack already going.
Right.
And so and the highs are soft, so nice around for solos, so they don't pierce, they don't get you in that jaw brightness, what I mean? That cracking thing where you're like, it's so bright.
Okay, so now, tuners, right? So the traditional tuner of a 59 was...
A Kluson,
right, which we all know and love the name.
Kluson, single line, single ring, just like those.
And, for me, I actually tend to like Grovers.
Sure.
Right? There's something about the mass of it that I kind of enjoy.
Which was, hell, everybody did it at that point. In 6x60s and people playing Les Pauls and stuff, they all changed them out too.
Yeah, that thing comes with the locking tuners on it.
Right.
I really enjoy those a lot. Now this guy, not too bad for the tuners.
Well, same as these, they're Klusons. Same thing that's around here.
Right. Well, yeah, they're Epi Deluxe. They're Kluson-ish.
Well, Kluson style. It's made in that frame, that style. Yeah, it's like waffle back, or not waffle back, a covered back tuner with that side, with the bent, like the metal. They stay on bent metal tabs. on the inside.
It's a pressed metal.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
Pressed metal fold.
Yeah, pressed metal fold. Thank you. There you go.
Well, 1, 2, 3. Pressed metal fold.
Unlike those, which are sealed casings, like a forged casing.
They're forged.
Right. Exactly.
So now a lot of people are going to rush out and they're like, do you want to go authentic looking for a 59 kind of thing? These are potentially, they look good, but maybe a little bit on the white side.
Yeah, they're a little white, but yeah.
Right.
Even these ones are a little white, a little more, not about the same thing, a little yellower.
You got a little more,
but not much. But they were always a little whitish.
Yes.
They're a little milky almost, with a little yellow, but yeah.
They should almost look like teeth.
Kinda.
Right?
Yeah.
Right, and not like plastic. And these do a pretty good job of it. They're a little pale-ish compared.
They look like somebody dulled them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like look like steel, like they took any sheenness out of them. Because usually if you look at these, you can almost see through them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the original ones are they're milky, like where you can almost see through the plastic. They're a little swirly looking almost, even in some cases.
So. But on Les Paul, a lot of people complain about like the G string not staying in tune. Is it the tuner?
No,
right.
It's not the tuner. The one problem thing about this versus first thing, shorter scale will always create a slightly more tuning issue, keeping standard tuning. So a Strat tune, standard, or Les Paul tune standard, your Les Paul is going to have a slight more maybe issue of tuning in the sheer thing of tension, because there's less tension.
Right.
More tension usually keeps things a little more rigid. Sometimes going to hold some tuning a little bit better.
So you don't want to do your 8 gauge strings in your Les Paul.
I wouldn't. Terrible. People. No, but also the other thing, the tuning issue you're always going to have with Les Pauls, and it's inevitable to some degree. You can still make it so it doesn't go out of tune, but you're dealing with pitch, and then you're dealing with bent. So it's boom, boom, boom.
Tilt.
Yeah, right? So you look at a Strat. Strats will stay in tune pretty good as a whole because the strings are in line with the tuner, straight off the nut.
Yep.
There is you have a little bit of a down pull, so a string retainer can cause issues. But you lose a string retainer, compensated tuners, you're going to stay in tune pretty good, more than a Les Paul in that sense. But the ticket to a Les Paul is just making sure that the G and the D strings, the slots are open. Same with the B strings, and it's just open a little bit more at the end of your slot. Open them up just to get that. They can stay in tune.
Yeah.
But the chances of them going out of tune are higher than other guitars for sure, because once again, tilt, bent.
But it has to do with this break angle.
Yes,
more than the quality of the tuner.
A tuner's going to hold this. Yes. Are some tuners better than others? I will say yes, because there's been plenty of times when you'll wind a tuner, and especially on guitars that are relatively new, and it'll shred out or break, or the gears, because that's tolerance design making.
Right.
Okay, that's making in a sense. But as a whole, if you get 10 quality tuners, Grovers or Shalers or Clusons, whatever. I mean, whoever else makes, there's so many other makers out there. I know.
Yeah.
But anyway,
right.
They're all gonna probably stay.
It's
tuning wise the same.
It's sort of like if this is the point you're trying to hit. Some tuners might move really finely in there, and some might be a little less.
That's
fine,
ratio, and that's ratio.
Right? But where once it stops, it stays.
As a whole, I mean,
you and I have seen a handful of tuners that
maybe
slip afterwards.
That you actually physically will move.
Yeah, like they start loosening it up.
Yeah, that's
pretty rare though.
That's pretty rare. I mean, it really is. I mean, can tuners make a difference in tuning? Maybe, yeah. I mean, I've changed tuners on lots of guitars, and there's been plenty of times like you're changing these for those.
Right. No.
Okay, these are fine though, but okay, I've never been like, oh my god, it's so much better.
Right.
Unless it's like a Strat and you're gonna use the whammy and you got like a nice set of compensated locking tuners and or just a nice set of compensated tuners, so no string retainer, and you open up the nut slide.
Right, because you want the tuners to go lower, or so they.
And that's not so much the tuners. Once again, it's having the whole guitar and everything set up. So I mean, it's gonna hold.
Yeah,
it's not. Put a few proper wraps on it, it'll hold. It's about this nut being a big issue on people's tunings.
Yes.
And I mentioned that in one of the earlier videos too. Opening this nut slot up.
A little bit,
Just keeping it clean, keeping it cleaned out, letting the strings flow. Because I've been playing Les Pauls for a long time, and I've never gotten off stage or anything and been like, oh, my Les Paul didn't stay in tune. Never. No, it stays in tune just fine, like as good as any other guitar.
Right.
I mean,
except for Floyd.
Yeah, Floyd's.
I mean, come on. I've taken.
No, Floyd's a pretty monstrous.
I've
abused the Floyd.
Strings, taken a neck off and put it back on.
With the strings, I mean, Floyd's are they hold pretty good, actually.
The red Ibanez, I bought it in Japan.
Right.
I had bought 2 of them in Japan, and I didn't have room. I had 1 gig bag, so I literally popped the springs off.
Right. Okay.
Took the trem off.
Sure. Okay, I got you. Right.
Stuck the neck and the trem in with the other guitar in the gig bag, so I just had 2 necks side by side.
And body in the case.
Right. And stuck the body in the case. Got to America, put it back on, and it was in tune.
Yeah.
Right after reassembling, it's just like what?
Yeah. I mean, Floyd. It's
locked
here.
It's
it's locked there. So.
And since I lost the tension from the springs, not from the it went right back to where it was. It was great. Right. It was.
Les Pauls don't have that.
No. Don't take your neck off on your Les Paul. Right? Note number 1, if you've learned anything today, do not try... Right. Anyways, so the big thing is that 59 Les Pauls aren't significantly different than the guitars you can get today. There are lots of reissues.
There's lots of reissues. I mean, the Gibson VOS line is amazing. That's what this is. It's a VOS 57 R7 reissue.
I played a lot of the custom shop 58, 59
Nollies.
Right, Nollies, and
beautiful guitar.
They are so beautiful, so beautiful. Yeah. So we love them. We love the way their tone is. Love them in a band situation. They sit really well.
The reality is, back in those days, there weren't inexpensive. They had 2 guitars in a sense of like they had a Les Paul and a Les Paul Junior. Mm-hmm. That was your inexpensive guitar, but it wasn't a cheap guitar. It was an inexpensive guitar because the features were less.
Right. We got rid of things like some binding or
all that
less pickups or something.
Not even like barely glossy finishes even, and just solid dull colors.
But
and
the wood and the carving and the frets were all
still quality. Yeah. So that's I mean, what's my point?
I don't know.
Oh, about quality.
Do I ever know your point?
I know. Yeah, exactly. No, just Les Paul. It's like that was the only differences back then. So now there's so much because we have the inexpensive, the import. All that stuff, your line of Les Paul's type guitars and stuff is quite vast too.
Yes, there is a wide variety of them. Right?
But I mean, we tout the 59. That's become the sort of benchmark because of a time when it wasn't about. Well, I mean, they're always about speed and timing, of course, in high productions, but they couldn't do high manufactured productions.
No,
you know what I mean. It was still. Guys are still doing all the work.
No,
So,
well, it's like,
that's kind of that's just our history of it.
Earlier today, we were talking about it's like a CNC machine in Korea, Indonesia,
Yeah.
Japan, China,
it's
America.
the same CNC machine. It don't matter.
It
gonna
cuts,
cut it out
cuts
the same.
the wood out the same. So then you get into source of wood. Where'd you get it from?
Yeah.
Right. Which any one of those places can buy.
Yeah,
right?
it's all what you do with it.
And then then it gets into
The care.
the manual care.
Yeah.
Right. It's like did you spend a half hour on the frets or did you spend 5 minutes on the frets?
Exactly,
That kind of thing. Right. It's like if you've got all the same materials anywhere. So there are some. Like I've got I don't know where it is right now, but I've got an ESP LTD Les Paul, right? And it's an amazing guitar, right? They've taken some liberties with their design,
Of course, but
it's smaller and stuff like that.
Yeah, it still fits the tradition of a.
But it's
set
definitely,
neck Les Paul.
Les Paul, right?
It's a tried and true design.
It definitely.
I don't know. We like Les Pauls.
We like them.
So we just talk about them.
We pretty much like all guitars, as probably you do, right?
I want a Telly.
I've been wanting a Telly lately so bad, right? I've been going through like looking at bodies and stuff like that. I've been wanting a pine one forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So which is a whole other thing, right?
It's a whole other wood tone type thing.
Yeah.
Huh.
Right. So that's all good.
Anyway,
but anyways, for those of you who have Les Pauls at home, enjoy them, love them.
Yes.
Right. For those of you who don't, you probably want one too. So maybe someday you'll pick yourself up one. For those of you who have a standard like I did, right? You can make some changes to it pretty quickly to get you right in the ballpark. You can, like I did, change out the pickups for something that's a little more traditionally, right? You could definitely go the opposite direction and make them high gain.
Definitely, Spend heavy music, why not?
But the guitar itself is fundamentally amazing. I have the Nashville bridge on it, but I could get, even though the spacing is different.
Yeah, there's conversion posts if you wanted to go to ABR1, if you wanted to do that.
And this is all shiny and chrome and stuff like that. Traditionally, they're more of a nickel flat kind of look, right? And so if you want to make your guitar look a little more 5090, you can get
there's things you can do, yeah.
But probably the first thing to do out of anything, I would say, is the wiring.
Doing pots wiring.
Get to 59 style wiring.
Change up the wiring. Even if you keep the pickups, anyway, usually they don't wire it. They'll just do a standard circuit wiring, and you can just change that even if with stock stuff. And if you don't, if as long as you don't have the circuit board versions of it, as long as it's a standard wiring system, you can rewire it to a 50s thing, which is not that big a deal. It's just flipping the couple tabs.
Yeah, but for the most part, changing to I wanted mine a little more authentic, so I've started to hit it with some cold, so it started to crack.
It's the age it yourself kind of thing.
Right. Which is starting the aging process a little prematurely. Right?
What's wrong with that?
Right,
we ain't gonna be around long enough, dude.
I know.
Dead people. That guitar's old enough. I'm just kidding. He's thinking about it. He's like, maybe.
Well, it's like if you think of the age of a 59 Les Paul to where I am in age now,
right?
I would have to be 110-ish.
Yeah, so
I ain't gonna wait around that long for my guitar to age.
No, so do it now.
Right? Tomorrow. But yeah, have fun with them, right? Yeah. They're a lot of fun, right? And you really can't, outside of doing things like I've thought of shaving the neck, because that's the very traditional
bigger neck,
the bigger neck, right? From
I shaved my neck a little bit. I did a little bit of shaping. Yeah. Mostly took off the lacquer just because I don't like the way it feels, but that's me.
Yeah. Lots of good guitar players like that. I'm not.
I know. You like the lacquer.
I do like the hardness of it, right? So I'm into that.
Yeah.
The sandy thing. You know how I didn't like the chalk on them. Yeah. All right. It's like, anyways, anyone?
This is a long one. We went on way too long, but that's okay though. There's a lot of talk about Les Pauls, man.
Well, and we didn't.
We didn't scratch it. I mean, there's a whole thing about the reissues in the late '60s when they brought them back because they discontinued in '60.
Yes, that's a thing people don't really do.
And 61 and part of 62, the SG body shape was called the Les Paul. So.
But who hated it?
Les Paul.
I hated it, and eventually they changed the name. Yeah. And he's like, don't use my name on that.
Oh, and here's a lot of fun. This is a fun thing to do. If you ever got smart-ass friends who bitch at you, like if you bought, let's say you went out and bought somebody's a Jeff Beck guitar, and somebody's like, oh, why are you buying brand name signature people's guitars? You just get one and make it your own. This is the ultimate signature guitar. This is called a Gibson electric guitar. Les Paul model. It's a signature guitar.
It's
the first signature guitar.
Yeah, it's the first ever signature guitar.
Except for some of the jazz box. There might have been some jazzer guys. I don't know when some of the jazz cats with the big boxes, when they started, they're like Johnny Smith and stuff. I don't know when that started. But as for electric, so and everybody gives you crap about signature guitars. If they play Les Paul, get them on it.
Yeah, they're like, don't buy that Eddie Van Halen thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like you're cloning somebody. It's like, hello.
it's like the biggest cloning.
Right. Which is kind of funny when you buy like a Joe Bonamassa Les Paul. It's like
it's a signature.
It's a signature, or a Slash.
It's actually Slashes would be a copy of the actual signature Les Paul because his original is not even Les Paul.
His original guitar wasn't actually.
I don't remember the guy's name. It wasn't Max. It was another guy's name. I don't know his name.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, so. Anyway, we digressed again.
We digressed. We will spin off. So everyone, this is Jason.
That's Jeff.
I'm Jeff, right? And this is J&J Guitar Show. And we hope you all enjoyed our rantings and conversation, right? And if you did, please comment down below.
Like, subscribe.
Hit
the little bell, too. It'll give you reminders when new episodes come out.
Ooh.
We're trying to get one a week. We had issues last week. So.
Right. Somebody may have had some food on their face.
What are you trying? Who?
What?
It
may have been the cat that was on the floor, right? So right. You forget one fact and have some food on your face, and that's it. It's over, right? Start over.
All right, guys.
So thanks for staying with us this long, and hope to see you next week.
All right, guys. See you later.